Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hockey Toolkit, episode 24, but this is season 2, episode 4. I am Trevor Carlo.
Andrew Trimble.
And we are here, ready to go, ready to party, have some fun, talk about hockey. But first, Coach, let's catch up. How you been?
Good. We're just finishing up that post-Thanksgiving malaise, like we're starting to get back into the swing of things now with all of our teams back in the building, ready to have our first games this upcoming weekend. They had a little 5-6 day break for Thanksgiving where most of our athletes go home, and we have a little pause in the schedule. So now we're back at it and excited for a big weekend ahead. How was your Thanksgiving, Trev, and how was your hockey experience along with Thanksgiving?
You know what? Well, let's see here. Hockey, Thanksgiving was just normals. Nothing too crazy. Just immediate family got together. Watched some football.
You stayed local?
Yeah, just stayed local. Nothing crazy. Only thing that was crazy is that my team took part in a Thanksgiving tournament. So we played on the North Shore.
Okay.
And we actually had a game at 7:30 a.m. on Thanksgiving Day.
Nice.
So that was fun, getting up even earlier than I would for work. So I was up at like 5:30 to get there by 6. I was actually there so early. I was the third car in the parking lot. And I was like, all right, well, I got like 15 minutes. I'm going to take a quick nap.
Yeah.
But
you gotta get your shut-eye in. I respect it.
Yeah, I was just like, you know what? I got a little bit of time. I could go in and stand around, or I could just take a quick little snooze here. So that's what I did. But, it was overall, it was a good weekend. The team ended up, we took second place in the tournament.
That's great.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, all things considered, we saw a lot of improvements in a lot of areas we've been working on. So again, still a lot to work on, but I'm extremely happy with how we played. But how was your actual Thanksgiving? Your personal Thanksgiving?
Well, it was we traveled down as a family to New Jersey to see my mom. This is her first Thanksgiving without my dad, so that was we wanted to make sure that it wasn't too stressful and tough for her. So we grabbed her and we stayed with her for a couple days, and then we went to Thanksgiving at my sister's house. She lives in the next town over. And it was really nice. It was a nice Thanksgiving. The weather was pretty mild in New Jersey as compared to New Hampshire, which is pretty cold right now. So it was nice being in a little bit nicer climate, being able to be outside a little bit and take part in all those Manasquan festivities that happen on the Jersey Shore at Thanksgiving. There's a big parade. There was a bonfire for the football teams that play against each other on Thanksgiving Day, and it just was a great couple days for sure.
That's awesome. That sounds like it was great that you were able to get away from a little bit. I know for you, especially. I mean, for you now, hockey. I mean, hockey. Not saying that it wasn't, but for you, hockey is a full-time thing. So I'm sure getting away, just a little bit of a break and seeing family and kind of like unwinding, kind of resetting. I'm sure that was phenomenal.
Yeah, it absolutely was. You get to those. I always tell our teams that October is really maybe the most critical month, and that's not discounting any other months. But from what my experience up here in New Hampshire is, it's you play so many games in the month of October, and it's just game after game after game, grind after grind, practice after practice, and then the weather up here, it turns really cold really quick. So you go from September, which you can still get out on the lake, you can still swim and do all that stuff, and then all of a sudden you're in October and you're probably going to get your first snowfall around, sometime later in that month of October. And if you can kind of persevere and have a really successful month, then it can kind of set you up for the rest of the year because you can kind of get adjusted to that cold and get adjusted to the gray skies and things like that. But so it was definitely a grind for that month, and to get a little pause after having a successful month, it felt really nice to take that 5-6 day break.
No, that's great. That's awesome. I definitely, I do remember even when I was doing it as a director, typically there would always be something around Thanksgiving, but even just those couple days where you get just a little bit of a break, that's always nice. I mean, even playing days, those are nice times. So, so you said
big question for you, Trevor. This your tournament this weekend. Did you instruct any of your guys to perform Jacob Trouba like slashes across people's head? Did that happen at all for you guys?
We keep that kind of like as a secret play, like the annexation of Puerto Rico. We keep that in, we keep that in the diet, just deep. We've got a special signal for that, but if they don't see
what is it like? What's the signal? Is it like flying V, or is it like?
Yeah. I just start yelling out,
hit him!
Yeah, basically. No, we did not. I've had to. No, I don't even want to go down that path. But no, we've never. Hold on one second. I unplugged my headphones, so we're gonna have to jump back in. All right. No, I have. No, I've never actually had that. I've never done that. Actually, we had that happen to us earlier this year against a team. I will not say their names, but stick got high up on one of their players. It was like by their shoulders, their arms, and the kid kind of turned around and got one of the skaters on my team, got him dead in the head. Luckily, everybody was okay. There was a suspension handed out, but no, I don't really have that in my in our toolbox on the team. It's not, it's not something we practice or we think about. But that I do appreciate him coming out and saying, "Hey, look, I need to be in control of my stick all times. I accept the penalty. He said all the right things. And again, I mean, I like Trouba. I think he's a good player. I think he gets a lot of hate
for sure.
because, and it's funny you bring this up because I was just thinking earlier today, like, you got hockey going on, you got football going on, and right now the Bears are on, so they're probably getting spanked, even though they had a good first drive. And then you got basketball going on. Like, what happens if we just, like, all three sports decided, all right, we're going to play by 80s rules for one night? Could you imagine all of these people's brain, like, heads exploding just because they're like, violence and just the insanity of it all? Like,
it is wild when you think about it.
But yeah,
I mean, hockey would be incredibly different. But I mean, I'm sure kids have played games like that. You know what I mean? Like
right.
where they've gotten out of hand and there's been some poor officiating. I'm sure that's happened. But basketball will be a real change. Like imagine passing the ball multiple times on one series, or like
trying to drive the lane.
Yeah, I mean, imagine like when you're like boxing somebody up, like maybe an elbow gets up and it gets really physical. Maybe imagine hard foul.
Oh man.
Again,
professional sports. If you guys are listening, which would be awesome. Definitely think about just having one like retro '80s night where everything's just 80s rules and go from there. But but
if anybody in the NBA wants my opinion on this or needs my help, I am undefeated in the last 6 years in my driveway. I've only played against my 8-year-old son, but that's neither here nor there. I know a thing or two about basketball.
Yes. So if anyone's listening and wants to ask us about that, but no,
I mean, name me somebody else who's like 50-0.
I can't think of. I mean, Mayweather, but that's still, that's going down even further down a black hole that we want to go down to if we're talking about bad sports. But what do you think about the whole Trouba incident? And then another one came up, but go ahead.
I thought it was a suspension. It merited a suspension. I mean, I definitely think that there was his stick got a little more out of control, and you slow it down, it looks worse. But it's a direct shot with a stick in the head with a player who has been suspended before, and I would say that it merited at least a game or two.
Definitely. I mean, I think if you slow down any type of incident, it's always going to look worse. I don't think it ever looks better. Even like a car crash.
Yeah.
I don't think a car crash looks any better slowed down. But Because that brings me to my next point was, or the one I want to talk about was Ryan Hartman just was suspended 2 games for his slew foot on Alex DeBrincat. And, there's rightfully so. There is a little bit of outrage. I don't know, I guess there's a little, there's outrage because it's social media about, Hartman gets 2 games and for taking a guy's feet out. And again, that's deserved. But Trouba gets, $5,000 taken away out of his paycheck, like big deal. What are your thoughts on the consistency of the player, Department of Player Safety and, all the fines and punishments? Like, do you think there needs to be, what would you do differently if you could control, had some control of it?
That's a good question. I didn't actually see the slew foot, but I've heard it on the NHL radio on Sirius on my drive down to Exeter this evening. I heard them talking about it, and I definitely think that's a point of emphasis that needs to start to be communicated. I mean, anytime you're trying to teach younger kids to body check, the first points of contact should be the shoulders and the hips. And you want to emphasize those things. So, like anybody who's now targeting feet. With their own foot, that's an intentional move. So it's not like something that happens by accident. So I think that should be addressed by the league, and I think it merit some suspensions when those kind of plays take place, because it's never just like really an accident. I don't think. And in terms of like the Trouba hit when that only has a $5,000 fine, I thought a couple years ago when Brendan Shanahan was doing it, and he was had video along with it, and he was communicating that to players, and they were putting that out on social media and the NHL Network. I thought that was a really good, useful tool. I haven't seen as much of that with some of the recent hits. It may exist out there. Maybe I'm just like missing it.
No,
but
I feel like it's not.
I think that if you're gonna give a suspension or you're not going to give a suspension, you should articulate why, so that there can be a standard set for all players across the league.
Well, I just sent you in the comments here in our little application here, a video of it. But it was clear as day. You could tell he was taking his feet out. So there's no doubt in my mind that it was definitely a slew foot. But I do agree. I did like when they go back and they would say, like, this is the point of emphasis on why we are calling this, why we are giving this, penalty, the suspension, what the penalty was. Actually, I think it was what the penalty was, where it was in the rule book. And then they went over why it was called that using the video. And then they, obviously after that, they gave their, okay, here's the verdict. And I did like that because I think it was not only good for, as you said, the players, obviously, they know they're not dumb, but it was good for the fans and it was good for younger players too. Because they could see okay, yeah, sure. Let's use a Scott Stevens hit, for example. Oh man, he blew him up. Well, it's like, yeah, the guy didn't have the puck for like the last 30 seconds and he had his head down. So yeah, it was great, but this is why. So I do like that, but I do think in that type of role, the more communication, the more open and you are, I think the better. So I don't remember seeing any, as you said, I don't remember seeing the videos that much anymore. Maybe it's because, I don't know, George Peros shaved his mustache or something. Beats the hell out of me.
I just watched the slew foot you sent me. That's ridiculous.
It was like, and don't get me wrong, Hartman is not he's not going to ever win a Lady Byng. And I know he's already had his own fair share of suspension issues, but, I think the big thing is both incidents, that one and Trouba's clear as day. Trouba, he's hitting, was it Frederick? He's hitting him in the head with his stick. Now, does DeBrincat hit his head on the ice? I can't really tell. I think he might have been able to kind of tuck his chin, but either way, we're still talking about some type of head contact.
Absolutely. And I think that, they've made a big emphasis over the last 10, 12 years to talk about eliminating headshots and head contact. So if you're dealing with a situation like that where a guy's pretty vulnerable, like his back is turned to you, you're engaging the backside of his body and his head's going to potentially snap back and hit the ice. Like, you have to protect those vulnerable players in that position. It's not a hockey play. He doesn't have the puck. I mean, there's no real reason to do that other than
being a dick.
Being a dickhead. Otherwise, other than being a complete dickhead.
And that's where he borders on that line of, that style of play of just sometimes he plays over it. But, saw that one. And then, I'm trying to think anything else here that's kind of come up in the hockey sphere. There's some stuff that's come up, but I'm not going to even discuss it about, the one thing I wish is that, and I could say because I'm out here in Chicago, is that I wish the folks in Chicago would just leave Corey Perry the hell alone.
What's that about? What did happen there?
So I'm not going to get into what the rumor mill just churned out today by some jackasses. But I'm trying to make sure that's not my. More or less, it's basically he was. I think it was it last week Wednesday, or a week prior, he was at the morning skate or something, and then he was healthy scratched. And then he wasn't at practice the next day, and he just basically kind of disappeared. And with the way when they were interviewing the team, they were asking about, what's going on with Perry, this and that. And it felt like some of the players really didn't know. Like Bedard really had no answer for it. Just saying, the team's going to miss him, this and that. And Foligno, who is my opinion, they might as well I get wanting to honor Taves, but just give Foligno the C because the guy is basically the non-captain captain of the team. But he gave he had some answers to the press, just kind of again, we don't really kind of know what's going on, but this is what's going on. This is what we do know. And finally, they were able to kind of pin down Richardson. They were able to ask him questions, and then Davidson, and basically it was this is all we're going to say. It was an organization decision to, have him kind of, be away from the team, which is fine to say. And again, you can be somewhat ambiguous. I know a lot of people are saying, well, the Blackhawks have promised us transparency, especially after the Kyle Beach incident, which, as far as I know, Corey Perry's name's not popped up in any police blotter anywhere. So, but that said, not even an hour or two after that was released, Perry's agent then said, Corey is taking a leave from the team. We would respect his privacy, his family and his privacy during this time. Which kind of this where now the fans and stuff are like, well, the team's saying it's a team decision, and now his agent's saying it's his decision. What is it? What's going on? And honestly, I'm just at the point where it's dude, look, he walked away. He's not with the team. It is what it is. We'll find out soon enough, most likely. But as long as no one's getting, there's no any type of assault going on, his family's okay. If he's got to walk away and that's the only thing you're given, how does it affect your life not knowing why Corey Perry's not on the roster or with the team at that time?
Yeah, that's really strange. I mean, he's been playing a long time. He's been a great player in the league for a really long time, and maybe he's just reaching a crossroads in his life and career where, he's got to evaluate his family and he's got to evaluate what he wants to do. And I think that, the more that the media gets into it and looking, like you said, looking for answers instead of giving it the pause that maybe it requires, it just becomes a distraction, So that's unfortunate because you hope that a guy like Corey Perry, who's been a gamer and a Warrior his whole career, can kind of go out on a good note, That's what you hope
Absolutely. For. No, and I think the media out here, in my opinion, the reporters for all the different, Blackhawks stuff that we have. I think they've done a phenomenal job of saying, hey, this is what we've been given, and we'll ask the questions, and that's it. We're not gonna, they're not hounding. It's more or less like the fan base is like, oh, we deserve to know, and it's kind of weird because it's like, at what point do we, these guys? I think people seem to forget that at the end of the day, they are humans, just like every single one of us. They get paid a lot of money to quote unquote play a kid's sport, but they're still humans. And who knows? Like, we don't know anything that's going on in his life. Maybe it's a family member. Who knows what it is? But it's like everybody's got to know. And it's like this, I don't know. To me, it feels like that whole, like, celebrity toxicity with, like, 24-hour news and, like, TMZ. Like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like I'm Charlie Day sitting there in front of the board with Pepe Sylvia, in the mailroom on It's Always Sunny. It's just, but it's like, okay, this is what they've told us. You can't compare the Kyle Beach incident to a guy's taking a leave of absence, whether the team's saying it's their decision or his agent saying it's his decision. Like, okay, you're not going to get your answer. You can sit here and bitch and moan all you want, but, like, if that's the most important thing in your life going on, like, man, you need to find a new hobby.
For sure. No, it could, and, like, anybody who's saying something in the media now that is based upon any kind of speculation, could be real egg in the face in another couple of days if he says, my kid's in the hospital. If he says, I'm going through some real tough times in my marriage, and like these real, or my parent died, or whatever. But, like, it could be some real serious family issues that he needs a little time to digest, and you got to respect that.
Right, and again, I think it's like those things are, it's just, they'll let the fans know when they need to let the fans know, like, when they feel it's important. And honestly, if I'm Corey Perry, and again, I get the whole, everybody wants, especially with the Blackhawks, transparency. That's what they've said, this, and that. I don't think that's, I'm 99.9% certain it's not the same situation. And if I'm a player on that team, and it is maybe a rough thing, maybe it's something obviously is going on that's wrong, like something wrong. And I don't mean that necessarily in the sense like, oh, he's dying or someone, like anything like that, but obviously something's happened where they want to keep their privacy. And I respect the Blackhawks with as much as they're getting pounded by the, fans and then the media originally. They're keeping their cards close to their chest, and they're not saying like, hey, we're going to protect this player. And I think it's definitely two different ends of the spectrum when you're talking about transparency about stuff. And if I'm a player and if I'm, I know, hey, I need to take a step away, or maybe the team says I need to, whatever the case may be, at least I would be like, hey, I respect this. Like, my coach is sitting there day after day. He's getting beaten down. Same question, just asked 15 different ways, and I'm able, and he's not budging. To me, that's about being a part of a team, and like my teammates are there for me. So I don't know. I mean, again, I'll tell you, we'll talk after we get off the air here, but about what allegedly the stupidest fucking rumor was that just popped up today, and I hope whoever put it out there gets sued for it. But anyhow, that's enough on that.
Well, what about another Chicago news? What about Patrick Kane? It seems like he's getting close and ready to return. The latest rumor I heard was that the team on the horizon is Florida. That's the biggest rumor I've heard.
Now it's Florida? That's
the latest one I heard today. Yeah.
Today, yeah.
What are you hearing?
I mean, I heard the Rangers again. I heard last week Detroit was a possibility.
I heard Detroit too. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think the guy, like, if you're a team again like Detroit, like, why not take a shot at him? He's got nothing to lose. Hell, I wouldn't mind if the Hawks, I get it, they're trying to move on from, the past and let, the Bedard effect take over. Oh, see, we already said his name. I said it earlier. It doesn't matter. But, you know what? He's not going to hurt you. I'm sure he's not looking for big-time bucks because he's making a hell of a lot of money, or he has already. Now he had, what was it, like a hip, like shaving of his hip bone or something like that?
Yeah, it was a pretty grueling recovery. I mean, he was, in that Devils Rangers series, he got a lot of flack from the New York media. I don't think he has any intention of going back to New York. I don't think that was a great experience for him. But he was productive. He had like 6-7 points in the 7 games. Like I think he was their top scorer in the playoffs. Like, he wasn't the reason why they didn't advance in that series. I thought he had a pretty good series. And then when you come out that he's now had a 6-month recovery from an injury sustained while he was playing in that series, it's like, wow, he's definitely got a lot of gas left in the tank then, I think. So, if you're a contending team, I think you'd be all over him.
I agree. I don't see why you don't kick the tires on him, especially because I'm assuming he's not going to be looking probably for a lot of money. I'm assuming, and if it is, maybe it's a 1-year deal where it's a prove-it contract. Again, he's, offensively, he's always played a style where it wasn't really, he wasn't a Taves type player, if I'm using the two, Taves is, I could see where his body's worn down on him. Kane, he knows when to pick his spots to go into those high, impact area, the dirty areas of the ice. I don't see why a team wouldn't kick their tires on him and have him come out and even have him. I don't know how a PTO works in this part of the season, but even if it's just league minimum and he's willing to come out and like, okay, hey, we're gonna give it a shot and see how it goes, and the guy can certainly help somebody's power play. I can guarantee you that.
Absolutely, and I think that he's a guy who's been there and he's done that. He's won multiple cups with Chicago. He's been an MVP in the league. And I don't think he's reached that brick wall yet. He had an injury and it affected his performance, but his performance still was near the top of the league last year. Still, even with those injuries. So, I don't really see. I don't see a real downside. I think if you got him for the league minimum or anything close to that, you'd be getting a steal.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I mean, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up and what the usage would be. I'm kind of surprised. I know it's probably cap-related issues, but like a team like the Edmonton who needs that secondary scoring, or even Toronto who needs the secondary scoring. And again, I know they're right up against the cap, but that if it came out like, oh, he's signing with those teams, that wouldn't shock me. But who knows? You never know. Florida, that's a new one. Which one? I mean, obviously, it would have to be the Panthers because I can't imagine the Lightning who have they put on in the long-term IR right now till the playoffs?
I know. They got half the roster, right? Kucherov's leading the league in scoring. Funny how that works out when he's not injured for a whole year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he doesn't have to go to Club Med for the half the season.
Witness protection program.
Exactly. But, so I guess we could hit on the big topic of the day, or the session, whatever we want to call this episode, the night. So basically, this kind of all started this weekend. You never know when you hit these tears. Like, you might post something on X, formerly known as Twitter, where you might all of a sudden just start getting like, oh, I agree, like likes, retweets, and you're just like, okay, cool, this is great. You feel like a little celebrity. But I in no way want to be a little celebrity. So I think we've discussed this before. We have discussed it. Out in New Hampshire with Barron's team, you guys are playing AAU, correct?
I don't know the official terminology of what it is. We play in a league called the E9, which is a Boston-based league, or Massachusetts, I should say. So we're like the only New Hampshire team, except sometimes the Avalanche play in our league too. They're in Hooksett, New Hampshire. But for the most part, it's a Massachusetts-based league with Massachusetts teams, and we play full ice mites. I don't know what our governing body is in terms of AAU or if it's Massachusetts State Hockey. I don't know, but I know that one leads into the other.
Right. Yeah. So out here in Chicago, we are it's under AAU for the 8 and unders. So 6, 7, 8-year-olds, 5-year-olds, I guess could play. I don't know. And again, I've been pretty far. I've been removed from the mite scene for a little while. I mean, obviously, I've seen some games here and there, some practices and skill sessions here and there, but I haven't really had to handle them too much. Even going back to when I was working as a director, we didn't oversee them because as a club, we were USA Hockey, and the Park District oversaw the AAU program, which was the mite program. Sorry. And so out here, it's the Chicago United Hockey League is what it's under. And originally, everybody had like these, like, you know, we got a team out here called the Chicago Blues, and the team name originally was like the Jazz. Like, it was like everybody was trying to like, oh, we're not affiliated, but we are affiliated. Like, nobody's dumb, but like they had to do that. Now everybody's like, oh, the Junior Blues or the Junior Cyclones or the Junior, like this and that. So, like, again, going back to this weekend, I watched a lower level, I guess you could say tier maybe, mite game, and it was full ice, and the kids were all trying their best, but I'm sitting here watching, and I don't know what the hell's going on or why this is going on. It was the longest 33 minutes, if that's how long they played total of hockey, or of basically kids on the ice that I've watched in the longest time. And I am not trying. This is not against the kids. I will not say the leagues. I will not say the team or the teams. But these players had no business playing at full ice hockey. There are kids that are at a higher level than that who should not be playing full ice hockey. I'll put it on record right now. Anybody 8 and under should not be playing full ice hockey, in my opinion. And I was just, I couldn't, it was mind-boggling. It's what full ice, you would assume full ice hockey for 7 and 8-year-olds would look like, and 6-year-olds. With one kid going up and down the ice, one kid from one team going down the ice with a puck, everybody kind of chasing, following, and then they would either shoot on net and they would score because the net's bigger than the goalie, or they'd miss the net and it'd be turned over, and then one kid from the other team would go and grab the puck and go all the way down to the other side. And it was just like back and forth, ping pong, but slow, and just, I can't even describe how brutal it was, and I feel so bad because it was nothing even remotely close to hockey.
Yeah, I feel your pain, Trevor. Our team does play full ice, and I'm supportive of the organization. I think we have great coaches and practice instruction facility and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But in terms of the rules of the Massachusetts base league that we're in, I don't really see the advantages from an optical perspective. Like, it sucks up a lot of time out of the rink scheduling during the day to field a full ice mite game, whereas you could have more kids playing if you have half a sheet, and play half ice games, or if you play cross ice games with 3 games going on at once. You could have more kids playing instead of having to really extend the day and play games at 6 a.m. and at 12 at night. They could have a bigger part of your day, that meat and potatoes of the day, being occupied by having more kids in your rink. And I also think that, like, when more kids are in the building, it creates a fun buzz and fun atmosphere for those young kids. They actually think they're playing in front of an NHL packed house, so it's kind of cool from that perspective too. And like you said, it may look like it's a hockey game because it's on a full ice and the nets are regulation size, but it doesn't mirror what you're seeing at any other level where there's puck movement, kids are getting open, kids are onside and understand the nuance of where to be on the ice. It's like turnover, breakaway, save or goal, turnover, breakaway. It's just a constant stream like that, and I think that there's so many reasons why USA Hockey switched to encouraging that cross ice or half ice model, and I get it now, having seen my son be playing in that environment.
And what kills me is that, everything you said is spot on. I mean, they talk about hockey being one of the most, difficult sports to get kids into, even families that are not affluent with the sport. And one of the reasons is the cost of entry. Ice time, so expensive. Well, when you get, you're playing 3 cross ice games at a time or 2 half ice games at a time, that soaks up, with the fees that you can collect, that soaks up a nice chunk of change there with them. If you got 4 different teams of 10 kids playing, you've got those issues. You've got, and again, I'll even say it now, like, I think 9U probably should be playing half ice as well. There's no reason why we should be. We're the only sport, I feel like, in North America that, and USA Hockey's been around, trying to push the ADM model and the cross ice games for so long. And I know at the beginning we were at the forefront of all the sports, and now all of a sudden I feel like we are in the back of the pack. Because let's look at it. Soccer. They're playing basically, instead of playing, full length, they're playing like cross ice like we would, with smaller nets and a smaller ball, so the kids are in tight. It's a, again, it's more focused on the touches and the amount of, playing under pressure and such under that stuff. Look at basketball. They lower the hoops to 8 feet. They shorten the court. The ball's smaller, Little League, these kids at this age are hitting off of tees, and maybe at 8 or 9, they've finally got a coach pitching to them. It's not 400 feet dead center. None of these kids are playing on a field that is Wrigley or Fenway. On and on. Football, smaller ball. Golf, the kids aren't hitting from even the men's tees. They're not even hitting at the ladies' tees. They're moving up. So why in hockey do we have to be so backwards and be playing full ice hockey where your kid probably, based on what I watched, there was at least 75% of the kids that never even touched the puck?
Yeah, that's a problem too, for sure.
Why? What is the... I've yet to see a good reason why these kids should be playing full ice hockey.
Well, I've had discussion with parents. We had one crazed parent who really wanted his kids to be playing full ice. And some of the reasons he said to me...
Give them to me, Coach. I can't wait to hear them. Because I'm sure I've heard them, but go ahead.
Well, he said he's been playing... my son started when he was 5, playing organized hockey. He's now on his... he's now at 8 years old, so he has 5-year, 6-year, 7-year. He'd be playing his 4th year cross ice. It's time for him to graduate to full ice. That's one. What do you say to that?
Okay. No. Next. I mean, okay. Yeah. Fine. Okay. So your kid's now, this is 4th year playing cross ice hockey. Has your kid gotten better? Is your kid having fun? Have you watched a full ice game for what your kid's age group would look like? How many more touches is your kid going to get for that? How much more is it going to cost you? I mean, right there, like...
Yeah, no,
Okay, but I mean, I get it.
I agree.
Okay,
that was just one argument. The other argument was, if you go back to players, and this is, they always, up in here in New Hampshire, they reference Bobby Orr more than anybody else, and Bobby Orr, never played cross ice. Wayne Gretzky never played cross ice. Those players had the ability to slow down the game, handle the puck, hold the puck for long periods of time, and we need to develop those skills, handling the puck and holding it for long periods of time, rather than just quick bursts of energy where you have to move the puck quickly. Your thoughts?
Now, do those parents watch NHL hockey? Do they watch college hockey at all? Do they watch junior hockey at all? Tell me how long even the top tier players are holding on to those pucks.
Well, the one guy I'm referencing is actually a volunteer assistant coach at a college, current college hockey. So I don't think he knows anything.
I mean,
just because knowing the person, that's all I'm saying.
I mean, seriously, like
I know.
We're talking about kids holding onto the puck, being able. That's what practices are for. If you want them to work on their stick handling, I'm assuming they have driveways up in New Hampshire. I don't know. I mean, I feel like as a society, you might have advanced to that stage. Do they got like a golf ball or any kind of ball where they could stick handle at home and work on that? Why? I mean, again, another one is, well, it's not real hockey. Well, no shit, it's not real hockey. None of the other sports are they playing? Is it is it quote unquote real hockey? But that's not the point. The point is to get these kids playing, to get them used to the skills, to get them to start developing the skills. Like, again, to me, it's just like, it's bonkers that we are ass backwards. And this is why the European countries per capita are doing so much better than we are with development of hockey players. They're more skilled. Many of them are producing more skilled hockey players than we have. NHL is just a different game than what's overseas.
I agree with you, Trevor. I think that we look at what the other element that comes into play too is this idea. We have a capitalist hockey economy in this country, and instead of like USA Hockey, if they say you're going to play cross ice, there's inevitably a rink owner or manager who says, well, there's an opportunity for them to make money off promoting full ice. Whether they believe in it or not, they can now find a market for that because it's being eliminated at one spot. So those people who share a different philosophy, they can now buy my product at my spot. And
absolutely.
And that becomes, that's a whole other different beast entirely. But like that's part of what the issue becomes when you get further down the road. Because I do think that most people who watch full ice versus cross ice or half ice say, "Oh man, and they compare and contrast. Your kid's gonna touch the puck more if they play cross ice or half ice hockey. They're gonna have to make quicker decisions with the puck. They're not gonna follow the play as much because they can stay at the same pace of play. And then from a rink owner's perspective, you can get more kids in the building, get more kids playing, get more kids in the barn. And you can play multiple games in a day, almost make it like a jamboree style. So like, there's just so many more advantages. It's not even, in my estimation, it's really not even an argument anymore. Like, but we are having the argument, so it's an argument for a lot of people, for sure.
And I think I would assume that most people that are running hockey clubs, that are quality coaches, and I do believe in the benefits of cross-ice games. But as you said, the big thing is we're letting the consumers make the decision on this one. And because, especially here in Chicago where you can almost, again, I was on the North Shore. I coached in the North Shore for one season, and I'm feel so dumb right now because I didn't realize how close the other two programs were from where we practiced, and it was basically a 10-minute drive down one road in either direction. So there's 3 clubs in one area. If one of those clubs goes cross ice, but the other 2 are going to go full ice, we both know which ones are going to get the most players.
Yeah,
we both know. And as you said, with the capitalist, it's the consumer. They're gonna go with, well, and as a tool, as a coach, as a program, you're gonna say, well, we're playing full ice hockey. Those guys over there, they're only playing half ice. That's not real hockey. We're playing real hockey.
Yeah.
Come on. Most coaches believe and know that the benefits outweigh, anything else right now at that age. My other favorite one is, well, they're not getting the conditioning. They're not be able to skate the full length of the ice. That one I just always want to that's where I'm like, okay, I'm jumping off this bridge here because this is like, your kid needs to get conditioning, because he needs to know how to skate the full ice. Like, if he's only skating and the game's played in 3 zones, but I mean, again, I know we're beating a dead horse. And I love beating the dead horse sometimes, but it was very frustrating, and I think we've got to take, that step. And I don't know, maybe if it's just the next generation has to come through, and I'm not trying to but our age group, we finally are able to sit there and be like, no, this is what we're doing, instead of having some of the older talking heads who are, looking at it of, well, this is how we did it, and this is, I don't know if that's what it needs to take, or I don't know. It sucks because we could be doing so much better.
Bobby Orr from Parry Sound, Ontario. He never played cross ice. You don't even know. Gordie Howe never played cross ice.
But I bet you they played on a pond or something with 10 kids on a team probably in the middle of winter, and there was no space to play, and that's how they learned how to play, was stick handling and trying to get through all these kids or making passes in these small areas. Again, it's for the fucking birds, man. It's getting old, and I get it. I get it. If that's what you have to offer because you're afraid you're going to lose out on players and they won't ever come back, you have to. Sometimes you feel like you have to do it, and I know it's so much. Trust me, I know it's so much easier said than done. To try and buck the trend. But this is it's getting old. And watching what I saw, I've even watched it. We've got AAA mites out here in Illinois. AAA mites. Okay, AAA.
Well, that's the real deal. Where do you go after that? You go right to the show, don't you?
I think you just get to skip every other level. You don't even have to do squirts. Forget learning how to do checking. You're just going right straight to it. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is something my therapist will be hearing a ton about, and I'll be having dreams about it and all that stuff. But I think at the end of the day, I just want to see better for the kids and stuff. I think it just makes more sense. And I think that, eventually we kind of have to look at the studies that have been done and get away from these, oh, this is how the game's supposed to be played. Well, okay, let's look at the other sports. And it seems to be working for them, where maybe 10, 15 years ago it was flipped, where USA Hockey was the one pushing for these small area games, and these other sports, football was playing on a full 100-yard, game, whatever. So, I don't know. I'm sure people were like, Trevor, shut the... But...
no, but you said a funny thing there. You said a generality. Boy, I hate hearing generalities on social media, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that offer's still out there.
Kids are very literal.
That offer's still out there, Mr. I Train Hockey, but you don't want to talk to us. We get it. You're playing really coy. We get it. You want a little bit more buttering up, but that's for another show. Maybe sometime he's on it, but yeah. Again, it's I don't know. It's a tough. It's something that just again, one of those things where I firmly believe in that development. So I don't want to keep beating this horse here. I got pretty much nothing left to say. Though if you're listening to this on Wednesday, which is when it should come out, I've already written one article on it. And I will be writing part 2, hopefully coming out Thursday, on the Mite Hockey. So
I like it.
There's my plug there. But you want to jump on the 5 minutes, Coach?
And that's all on the Hockey Focus Network.
That is, yes. Da-da-da. No, we can't use ESPN shit.
We're going to get in trouble.
We'll come up with our own. I know. It's the last thing I want. But yeah, so we decided, though, today we were going to do the 5 myths of Mite Hockey. And clearly, since I'm as passionate as I am about it, yet I have not coached a Mite team my entire life, truth be told, but I've worked with them. I took 3 of the 2, so... if it's cool with you, Coach, I'll just start here at number 1.
Let it rip. Go.
All right, so the 5 myths of Mite Hockey. Number 1 is beating the dead horse. Mite Hockey needs to be played on full ice.
And let's talk about this. Let's open this can of worms.
This hasn't been brought up at all. I've already said enough on it. Basically, I think the game's better off at those younger ages. You can get more kids into the game. You talked about it already. You hit the nail on the head with the jamborees. Jamborees were great when we were doing them, when we initially were following the USA Hockey cross ice games. You've got 7, 8 different organizations in a building, and you've got 3 games going on, and then after a certain amount of time, basically everybody, like, each on one side of the ice, each team moves to the right, to their right, and plays a different team, and then they do it again, and whatever. Like, those are great. Those are fun. Kids were seeing a ton of shots. They were, it was all over the place. There was some coaching, because when the kids weren't in, you're just basically saying, hey, spread out, get in a triangle, support, boom, there you go. There's your coaching. So, again, Mite hockey does not need to be played on full ice. Coach, do you beg to differ?
Absolutely not. I think I completely agree with you. And if you want to devote another 20 minutes to it, I'm game. But we're in complete agreement once again.
I'm not going to be able to talk tomorrow. What do you got for number 2, Coach?
Number 2 is mites can't do video or off ice. I think actually,
what?
I know. I think that I've heard a lot of coaches say this, or I've seen a lot of people not incorporate that in their practices. But I really think that certainly off ice, whether it be stick handling off the ice or doing some athletic or coordination movements, whether it be ladders or jumps or simple agility drills, things like that can be done off the ice, and it can only take you 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, something like that, right at the end of practice. But it can make a big difference if you keep consistent with it throughout the season. And then video, we started off with our Mite team here in New Hampshire, with Bears team doing hockey homework for the kids, and they're doing great with it. They ask questions, and they'll come up, oh, I watched the video, coach, and they're so excited to tell you that they watched the video. And it's not necessarily that they have to get all the bullet points on the things that we're getting in the video, but I think it's a great way to supplement their lack of actual watching hockey games. So, if you listen to an interview with Gretzky when he was 6, 7 years old, he was watching TV and he was tracing the game on a notepad.
Yep.
It was a different world back then where they didn't have the same stimulation, other stimuli like taking away their attention. Right. But watching a hockey game on TV was fascinating to that generation of athletes. And to me, even as a kid, I remember watching hockey games my whole life and never, I didn't have video games when I was a kid. My dad didn't believe in video games. But, so I didn't really.
That's another episode.
Yeah, that's a whole nother episode. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
but kids have to see players playing the game. In order to acquire skills and hockey IQ, they have to see someone playing the game other than themselves at rink level. And I think doing something like that with hockey homework, it's made a big difference for my team. And it can make a big difference for your team if you're a Mite coach.
No, absolutely. Off ice, that's a given. Any type of athletic movement extra that these kids are able to do, because they don't get enough as it is. In their own regular, I'm assuming, daily lives, just with how schools systems are. No, that's definitely important in the video. Again, even if it's just one thing, like, hey, go home and watch, go watch the Bruins do this, or go tell me how many times in the first period the Devils do that. Like, simple.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's fun. Kids love it. They come in. Again, I've got 9U, and these kids love telling me, oh, I saw this, the other night, or I saw this, So it does. It makes sense. And again, it's a no-brainer. It's one little extra thing you have to do as a coach, or even as a parent you can do. I got number 3 here. One of my other favorites is your best mites are going to always be your best players. That's basically false. I'm not saying that it's not true that some of those kids might be your best players. Some kids are going to be naturally gifted at hockey. Some of those kids might be naturally gifted at skateboarding too. Who knows? Development is not linear. Some kids peak at different times. Some get good. Some then, they plateau. Maybe they get better again. They plateau. It all depends. That's why I think it's absurd that we've got AAA Mite hockey, or these super teams or these elite teams. To me, it just doesn't make sense, because, I understand, grouping kids together to train them, because some kids can do things differently or better, and maybe they need to be pushed a little bit more. That I get a little bit to an extent. But again, I can remember when I first started, I can remember the kids that were on that, top Mite team. And looking back at it, how many of them are actually still playing hockey, or were the top players? I mean, you're lucky if maybe even 10% of these kids who are your top players now will be playing, or I'm not even playing. Let me rephrase that. You'll be lucky if half of these kids are still your best players by the time they're 16, 17, 18, if they're even still playing. It's just the way of how development happens.
Yeah, and I agree. And one of the things that I like watching on social media, always comes up in my algorithm for whatever reason, is a lot of interviews with Kobe Bryant. And there's one interview where he talks about he had a whole summer of basketball where he didn't score a point in all of summer basketball when he was 11 or 12 or whatever it is. And how he really used that as fuel for his own game. And it helped build that relationship with his dad because he asked more questions and he knew that his dad was really engaged in his development. That it wasn't oh, you didn't score, you stink, you should give up basketball. It was no, you can work on this, and he was supportive during that time, and I think that's a big part of the equation too. It's sure, kids will go through different athletic developmental, you said steps or plateaus, but also if you're given everything your whole life, if you make all the top teams, then where's the incentive? Sometimes that adversity is the biggest way to have rewards down the road. And I think that gets lost sometimes.
Or the incentive can be when mom or dad gives you $5 for every goal you score. Not assist, but every goal you score. Take that one to the bank. Coach, what do you got for no pun intended there, but what do you got for number 4?
Coaching doesn't matter at the Mite level. It's just about getting them on the ice. A friend of mine, Michael Bodner, he's from Czech Republic. He lives over here in the United States. And when we started to take over the Wolves program, Michael's not involved with the Wolves program, but he was a good player.
He's not a college coach, is he?
No, he actually played at Plymouth State, though, but he's a good guy.
Just making sure he's not the assistant coach.
No.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. But he said to me,
You're here.
Oh, you can hear? Sorry, I thought my screen just logged off. I have to edit that.
Mine said that twice already.
But Mike said, he said, one of the things he noticed about youth hockey here in Laconia, because he was raised right outside Prague in the Czech Republic. He said, all the new starter coaches, they throw them in with the mites. He's like, it's these guys who can't even skate, and they're out there with the mites. Yeah. And he's like, that's opposite of what we do in the Czech Republic. We have some of the best skating coaches, and the best coaches in the programs are the guys who are actually teaching the fundamentals to the players. And that really resonated with me. And, now I have this crew of coaches that I have developed this relationship with the Czech Republic, and that is exactly what they do. And they put their best coaches at the younger levels so that they can have, because the coaching tends to get a little bit easier as you get older, or at the older age levels. I mean, you're teaching different stuff, but you're not teaching that core fundamentals that the kids need. If they don't require that when they're a mite, they're never going to get that potentially. So I think that all organizations should reevaluate that. Coaching is really important, I believe, at the Mite level. You have to make it fun for the kids. You have to make the kids enjoy the game and want to come back. But then you also need somebody who can skate and demonstrate the drills, because the kids, if you just communicate with a dry erase board or just communicate with your mouth, they don't understand it. So you have to really follow me. This is what you're supposed to do. This is how you do it. Now we can do it together. And that's really important.
That's, it's twofold, what you just said. I do agree on everything you've said. It's actually and it wasn't just from you, but I've heard that from numerous sources, different people over my coaching career, of how over here in America, United States and even Canada, we've got it backwards, where we typically put our best coaches, or what we would say are best coaches up at the older age levels. And, we would have the less experienced, or even some of the parent coaches who, as you said, some of them struggle. They're not ones that demonstrate. We put them at the younger ages where, again, over in Europe, it's flipped. I remember the first time, like when I first started coaching, I wanted to work at the Pee Wee Bantam. Actually, it was like Bantam level. And, when I didn't get the team, I was 20 years old. I was like, what the heck, And I was like, I got a score team, like this and that. And I remember Randy Jordan, one of my mentors, saying, he's like, this over in Europe, this is what they do. They put their better coaches down. And I was like, really? All right. It definitely gave me a nice little ego bump, but I'm sure that was also just to keep me around. It was not a great, I was still learning just like as I am today. But that was the one thing, is that I agree with you on that. But as what I said, it's kind of twofold, that it is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because, my uncle, God bless his heart, he's not somebody who's going to sit here and show any player how to do the, X, Y, and Z skill-wise. He might demonstrate, okay, this is where we want the puck to go, or how to do this, and that. But he's not a professional skater. But what he would do is he would make sure that he could get the younger coaches, like, who were, still playing midget hockey, or had just, graduated college and then were helping out. He'd get them to come in and work the mite skills, or work with the mite teams, because those guys could demonstrate the skills that he wanted those players to be taught. Now, that said, he would still use the parent coaches who never played hockey growing up, or maybe do just play beer league and they're not the best skaters. But he would find a way to use them. And if that meant, okay, I want to make sure that this kid, when he's doing a tight turn, he's got both feet on the ice, because as you and I both know, kids just love to pick up their outside edge for some dumb reason that no one's figured out yet. But, hey, he would go, I want this guy here. Your job is to make sure every kid goes around with both feet on the ice, and they're using their outside edge. And he would find, and I feel like it's one reason why a lot of the parent coaches respected him, and a lot of parents respected him, was that, he would use the parent coaches as assets, because, it's something he doesn't have to go and do to make sure every single time, like, he doesn't have to do it. He can bounce from station to station, and he doesn't have to use the kids that, or the younger coaches who can demonstrate. He doesn't need to use them as just someone who's making sure, okay, Billy's doing, they're doing this, they're making 2-foot turns. He can have Billy's dad making sure that they're doing 2-foot turns, and if they're not, he can say, hey, you got to be doing this, and he can let the other coaches more experienced coaches who can demonstrate, do what they're there for. So I always thought that was, it's something I never would have thought of doing, and he did. And again, it's something that that really helped our kids in that program succeed so much. And that was a club that was very high on our skating skills, just the attributes of it, and we did really well. And
that's great stuff. And I think I think Coach Jordan is like really using all his assets, and that's really important, because whether everybody has strengths and weaknesses as coaches, but if you can get more people on the bus to help you out, to drive that thing to where you want to get it to, then you're doing something right for sure. And that sounds like he was finding the best tools to add to his team.
No, definitely. So, again, I give him, Coach Jordan, and my uncle, Coach Kelly, I give him all the credit in the world for a lot of the stuff that I've learned, I've picked up, and just how they ran things, because it just made so much sense, but nobody else was willing to do it because they were worried about daddy coaches, this and that. But that's a discussion for another day. So, I guess to kind of cap it off here is if your kid, number 5 is if you're the player is not playing by mites, if they haven't started playing hockey by mites, they're doomed. Their development's doomed, and that's positively false. We see players all the time that get late starts in the game, Just because they didn't start skating when they were 3 or 4, they didn't come out of the womb skating, doesn't mean they're going to be, they're not going to be able to make it. I've seen kids come into hockey at, 9U, 10U, who just, they knew how to skate somewhat, but, they were great athletes. And all of a sudden, by the end of their careers, they're some of the best players in the organization. So, again, it's great to get kids started early, but just because your kid didn't play mites or something of that nature doesn't mean that they need to be written off.
Yeah, I mean, there's two examples really. Two thoughts on that one. Number one is Ed Jovanovski. Didn't play organized hockey until he was a peewee, and he ended up being the number 1 overall pick in the NHL draft in '94.
94, yeah.
And then he also played over 1,000 games in the NHL and was an all-star.
Do you remember who took him?
Florida
took him. Yes, sir.
Jovo Cup.
You got Jovo Cup.
And then the second part of that is, I think if a parent, you're making a decision based upon like how good your kid is going to be, I think you're kind of missing the mark. Kids, hockey is one of the great sports. It's different other than it's really different than football, like other contact sports like football or like, I think rugby, you can play that your whole life, but hockey's a lifelong game. You can play that your whole life. So if you're just looking in between that window of, let's say 10 to 18, that's his hockey playing window. You're missing out. The kid, he could pick up a skill, and maybe he's not going to be the best. Maybe he will be the best. Who knows? But he can acquire some skills that can use the rest of his life, and maybe build some relationships, get some exercise when he's older, and he can enjoy a game that he has an interest in, or he or she has an interest in.
I've met so many parents, both moms and dads, who have started to play after their child started, just doing adult clinics and stuff, who I've, you see them come out to the parent-kid games and stuff like that, but they've started playing after their kid, and they're still playing to this day, whether it's in Thursday night 11 o'clock slot with all the other parents that they've met through hockey or their buddies, or we're on a team with all the other moms from the area that play hockey. And I don't think there's ever and I'm not just saying it to say it, but I don't think there's ever really a wrong age to start the game. I mean, obviously the earlier typically the better, but I think at any age group, young and old, there's no wrong age to start playing the game.
Absolutely. I think if yesterday didn't work, today could work for you, and if not that, then try tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's the saying? Like, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best day is, your best next time is like now, So there's a lot of trees I wish I would have planted 20 years ago. But hello, Google stock options. Anyhow, so that's kind of all I got for tonight, Coach. This is a very great therapy session for me after this weekend. Anything else you got?
No, I think that this was a good little episode. I think we got some more exciting guests coming up in the next couple weeks that were in the works. And always that I Train Hockey interview, if we can get it, would be really fantastic. Because I'd like to really open that line of communication, give him a platform, really discuss his thoughts and reflections on what makes his program unique. And, I'd like to hear his philosophy.
And again, forgive my ignorance. Do you know the gentleman's name who runs I think
the person we see
his first name?
Sean,
if you're listening, please realize that while we know, we're not going to sugarcoat this. We know that you get crapped on certain parts of social media. Like, we're not dumb. We actually legitimately would like to have you on the show. And it's more or less because we would love to understand your process, how you do things. Clearly you've done well that you've gotten your name out there further than we've ever gotten ours so far. I hope you don't sit here and think that, oh man, if I come on this guy's show, they're just gonna bag me the entire. That's not even close. Honestly, I don't have that bone in my body to do that. I wouldn't do that to a guest. And as we've said before, like we tell any of our guests, you have final opportunity to edit, take out whatever you want from the show. Hell, you could even scrap the entire interview. If we have to get lawyers involved, we can get lawyers involved. It would be the dumbest thing ever, but whatever the case may be, we're not here to really bag anybody. We just want to get, learn and understand. So, if you are listening, Sean, let us know. Reach out. I will stop my quest to ever track you down to get you involved, but well, that's what I got. That's where we're coming from. I think Coach Trimble and I are both on the same page here, where it's like, hey, why not? Let's hear from you. So, outside of that, Coach, hey, I hope you have a good night. I'm gonna go see how bad the Bears are getting beaten, and I'm gonna log off here. So, I'm Trevor DiCarlo.
I'm Andrew Trimble.
And we will catch you guys on the next episode.